Fuel goes live in 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, Fuel members. This is Bailie here, and I'm going to bring you a new presentation on the anatomy of the three-putt. Coaching collegiately and coaching golf now for well over 20 years. This is a question I get a lot. How do I stop three-putting? I don't understand. I'm averaging X amount of three-putts per round. What is that, and how can I make it better? It's a larger component more than just the putting green, and I think that's a big misunderstanding that a lot of players and coaches have. This is a multifaceted issue. It's just not one thing. It's just not missing short putts. It's just not being a good lag putter. There's a lot more to the actual performance of avoiding three putts. So let's take a quick look at the anatomy of the three putt and what's going on here. So there's a lot of confusion about how to avoid a three putt. The number one thing I always hear is my lag putting is terrible. I'm the worst lag putter. I have trouble controlling speed. That very well may be the case. A lot of people think I need to lag within 3 feet, but do you really? Is 3 feet really expected at different distances? At 20 feet is 3 feet good? At 60 feet is 3 feet good? What is 3 feet? Give me more information. Other players say I train the heck out of 3-footers so I can play better golf, right? So I'm trying to lag everything at 3 feet, and if I train my 3-footers, that means I should never three-putt, right? Or at a very small rate. But again, does that make sense? Is that really what happens in the world? Putts outside of 20 feet. A lot of people don't believe that matters for making putts. So again, I think of that as a neutralizer. Can I make putts outside of 20 feet so when on the rare occasion that I do three-putt, I neutralize it and it's not really hurting my game? So there's a neutralizer. Can I make bombs? And also expectations of three putts, depending on number of three putts, depending on where you are on the golf course, what your level is, how many greens you hit, what is that? What are my expectations of actually three putting? A lot of players, I think, have a naive or wrong concept of how many three putts they should expect during a round. And inside of the Forging Player Series, we do a great job of showing you what is expected. And we'll dive into that a little bit in this video as well. So we can see there's a lot of confusion, like what's happening. So how can I avoid three putts? Really, that's why you're watching this video, right? I three-putt 3 times a round. How can I make that 2? I three-putt 1 time per round. How can I make that a half every other round? What is that? How can I do that? So let's look at the actual components that make up, or the anatomy of the three-putt. Root causes, you have the approach distance to the hole. So how far am I from the pin as I hit my approach shot? So really, the root causes of three putts go all the way back to the tee box. Can I hit it far enough so I can hit an approach shot that I can hit close enough where the odds of me three-putting are in my favor? So typically, the closer I am to the pin for my approach shot, typically the closer I can hit it to the pin, or proximity-wise. So that's important. My ability to control proximities. So again, can I hit shots within 20 feet? That's a really, inside of golf we talk about, or inside of Game Forge we talk about impositions. How often do I hit it within 20 feet? One is that makes birdies, right? The more shots inside of 20 feet gives me opportunities to make birdies. But it also disproportionately, if I hit it within 20 feet, reduces my chance of three-putting dramatically. So again, it's a proximity game, right? Also, we have distance control with the putter. When I'm at distance, can I control speed? On long putts, number 1 is read. Can I get a good read? And then 2, can I match that read to speed? Start line is the third most important thing, in my opinion, on long putts, right? As long as my face is relatively good, speed and read really make up a long putt, and it gives me the ability to two-putt. If my start line is off, I can still two-putt, but if read and speed are at a big error, there's no chance, or I'm going to have to make a really long putt to save par. So again, controlling the putter speed-wise is a big tool. And of course, short putt cleanup, right? When I hit the putt within, let's say, 6 feet of the hole, how good am I at actually cleaning that putt up? Can I save par? So that's kind of the anatomy, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into this. So does distance off the tee matter? You better believe it. So here's a simple graph from the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour, kind of the longest drivers on tour, and it shows you how much more money they make in comparison to as they lose 10 yards of driving distance. So on tour, if you average between 310 and 320, you average roughly $3 million a year. And then if you average between 270 and 280, you make about $200,000 a year. So you can see a big step off. LPGA Tour kind of mirrors the same thing. 270 to 280, you make $500,000 on average. And again, if you're out at 230 to 240, kind of on the lower edge, you make about $109,000. Yes, this is money. Yes, this is more than just three putts. But again, this shows you that the concept that distance off the tee does matter. So kind of in the pantheon of playing golf, it's how far can I drive it down there, and of course keep it, relatively in the fairway or good shots into the green. But again, this concept is here for you to understand that yes, length off the tee does matter. Three putts do go all the way back to the tee box. Approach distance is closer better. Of course it is, right? So here we've given you 3 different approach bands. We're looking at 100 yards, 150, and 200. And you can see roughly you are almost twice as likely from 100 yards to hit it within 20 feet as you are at 200 yards. So again, that goes back to that distance question, right? If I can the further I can hit it down the fairway, gives me a better opportunity to hit it close. And when I hit it close, as you can see here in the bottom sentence, 10% of all three putts come from in position or better. So really, you're only going to three putt 10% of the time if you hit it within 20 feet. So again, that concept of proximities, how can I put the odds in my favor to hit it closer? Because one, that gives me the opportunity to make birdie, but more so, it gives me the opportunity not to three putt. So again, does proximities matter? Yes, but proximities are set up by tee shot, distance, and of course lie conditions. If I'm in trees or have disruptors or penalties, again, that hurts my opportunities. Maybe not three putt per se, but it hurts my opportunities to be able to perform. So again, it's important. I would say it's imperative to understand that approach distance and proximities are probably the main driver inside of three putting. So again, it's just that concept of is how close can I hit it to the pin. So here's 2 simple graphs. What I've done is I took the Learning Player series, and if you haven't checked out the Learning Player series as a GameForge member, go into your GameForge channel inside of Fuel here and actually take a quick look. There's a lot of great information and videos in there. I really encourage you to look at the Forging Player series. Learning Player is a player that shoots around 100. Tour Player basically averages about 1.5 under. Elite, let's call them scratch. Advanced, mid-70s. Proficient, right around 80. Developing, upper 80s. Emerging, kind of 90s. So that gives you kind of a concept of where these are coming from. So the first graph, we look at greens to in positions, right? So basically, the Learning Player averages 5 greens. The Tour Player averages over 13. And I just rounded to whole numbers. These are all decimal pointed, but again, just to make it clean. And then we look at in positions, right? Our opportunities to make birdie, but more so inside of this presentation, opportunities where you shouldn't be three putting. So you can kind of see anywhere from a third to half of their shots are actually in position. So that, again, so if I'm hitting 12 greens, roughly I'm having 5 or 6 opportunities outside of 20 feet that I've got to prevent three putting. And again, if you look at in the graph below is actual three putts by emerging level. So we took everybody in the system and we said, what are their chances of three putting? And you can see a tour player is about a half. They three putt every other round. The elite player, so a scratch player, the good collegian, the good amateur is doing basically 1 per round. The emerging and the developing player kind of sit there right a little over about 2.5 per round. So again, that gives you that kind of concept of, as I progress, my ability to hit more greens, my ability to control speed on the green get better, my three putts go down. And of course, making short putts, which we're getting ready to talk about. So again, this is kind of expectations. A lot of scratch players, an elite player really thinks that they should never three putt. But on average, they're going to three putt roughly once per round. Are there ways to neutralize that? Yeah, if I have more shots inside 20 feet, make more birdies, I make bombs. There's ways to kind of limit that pain, but on average, you're going to three putt once per round. And again, the best in the world do it basically every other round. So again, we've got to have expectations and understand you will three putt. And these are roughly what the numbers look like. So the anatomy of the three putt on the putting green, where do they come from? As you can see, in positions and blackjacks, that makes up all your putts 20 feet and in, looking roughly about 10%. Effective greens inside of Game Forge are putts when you hit the green where you average between 20 and 40 feet from the hole. A third of your three putts come from there, and roughly double that amount outside of 40 feet are your out of positions. Inside of Game Forge, we do not display out of positions inside of the GFI, but this number is really easy. Take your effective greens, subtract it from your greens in regulation, and that shows you how many putts you have out of position. So you can see really the main driving force is when you hit the ball outside of 20 feet, you start introducing three-putt more and more. And then again, if you hit it outside of 40 feet, you can see more than half of your putts are expected to be three-putt or worse. So again, that kind of gives you inside of our scoring zones where three-putts actually come from. And yes, three-putts do happen inside of 8 feet. Very rare. Usually a speed issue. So the question is what distance is good? So we talked about approach distances. We talked about distance off the tee. Now we're going to look at lag distancing. What is a good leave at 30 feet, 40 feet, even 50 feet from the hole, right? What does that look like? What is a good leave? Most players I talk to when I start working with them, they all tell me 3 feet. Now I go, is it 3 feet long and short? Is it 3 feet pass? And most of them say 3 feet pass. So now we're expecting at different distances to be able to hit everything within 3 feet. We don't expect that with our iron play coming in, right? As we see dispersions with wedges, let's say the average wedge is 15, 20 feet from the hole, and the average 8-iron is 40 feet from the hole. Well, we don't expect the same results from the different distances coming in, but we expect the same results inside of a putting green. Again, it's just a misunderstanding of what's actually happening. So the question is at 30 feet, what's a good leave? Is it 3 feet? Is it 4 feet? Is it 2 feet? Is it 1 feet? Is it pass? Is it short? What is that? Well, inside of Game Forge and inside of Aimpoint, Mark Sweeney discovered this we call the 10% rule. The 10% rule basically says after 20 feet, so the best players in the world from inside of 20 feet, everything averages roughly 2 feet past. So the average leave is 2 feet past. So everything is getting to the cup and going past, right? So they have a couple putts at 1 feet, they have a couple putts at 3 feet, but they're averaging 2 feet. What we find from 30 feet roughly to 50 feet, and or even past, we're gonna dumb this down a little bit because it does change a little bit, is what we call the 10% rule. So at 30 feet, 3 feet short, 3 feet long is okay because roughly, now it's not exact, but roughly, the best players in the world average the ball on top of the hole. That means they leave it roughly as many short as they do long. It's not perfect at 30 feet. It actually is a little bit pat, but again, it's close enough. So we call that 10%. So 3 feet short, 3 feet long. At 40 feet, 4 feet short, 4 feet long. 50 feet, 5 feet short, 5 feet pass. 60 feet, 70 feet, 70 feet, 7 feet short, 7 feet long. So again, understanding this concept of the 10% rule. How can I leave the putt within 10% of the hole, right? So I think this understanding of lag putting is, if you believe everything's 3 feet past and you're trying to lag to that, it's very difficult because of the hole sloping away. The ball's going to want to run. You make a bad read. You end up 6, 8, 10 feet away from a hole. Really easy. But kind of starting to understand this concept of what is good. At 50 feet, can I leave it 5 feet short, 5 feet long? If I'm within that 10-foot diameter of the hole, I did my job on speed and hopefully read. And now can I go clean it up? So again, this concept of 3 feet, 4 feet, even 5 feet past the hole is a good putt. So again, you're going to start to reclassify. And the beauty of this is I'm ADD ridden. If you haven't been able to notice that inside of some of these presentations, well, you will now. I play a lot of games on the golf course to keep my mind engaged. So anytime I have long putts, I'm at 40 feet. In my head, I'm like, okay, here's a good read, here's a good speed. My goal is 4 feet or better. And what you come to find out is when your speed gets really good and you really can kind of understand this concept, as you're feeding that in with a good read, you get inside of 4 feet many times, and you also see the ball go in the hole more than you think. So that concept is starting to understand speed and understand expectations. But the beauty is at 40 feet, if I hit it to 3.5 feet, man, that's a win. I actually overachieved, right? So again, it just gives me confidence of what I'm doing and what I'm training, and everything's working. So I think it's a great game inside of the game, and it's definitely something you can train on the putting green, right? Do some what we call benchmarking inside of Game Forge. At 30 feet, can I put a marker down? Can I put a marker 3 feet before hole, 3 feet past? How many can I feed into that area? Do that at 40 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet. Get that concept of being able to control speed and put it in the right zone. And of course we have cleanup, right? What is cleanup? Well, that's simply pretty much 60 feet out. Everything should be 6 feet and in. So for most of my players, we really train hard 6 feet and in. And this actually also helps you inside of your short game, your P6 scramble, the ability to hit it within 6 feet and then convert. So and as a general rule, we look for an 80% plus conversion rate for a really high-end player. And of course, that drops down close to 50% as an emerging player and kind of that zone. But the concept is drop 10 balls between 3 and 6 feet or 2 and 6 feet. Your goal is to make 80% plus, right? So out of 10 balls, can I make 8? And that, again, shows me that I'm doing my job to clean it up. And I think the really cool thing, in my opinion, short putts and long putts are very similar. Read and speed are the most important thing. Start line, less important. Assuming good enough, right? We can't have a 7-degree face open or closed or something like that. But as long as our face is pretty good, if our speed and read are really, really good, the bookends, the long putt for leaving it, for your lag putt and your cleanup putts, read and speed are the most important tools, which again, I think it goes counterintuitive to the way that most putting is taught. Most putting is taught start line, start line, start line will fill in the gaps. Start line is really important 9 to 20 feet, but it mirrors what speed and read are doing as well. On the bookends, you can have a little face issue on a short putt and still make it as long as you have a good read, and vice versa on long putts. Face is less important as long as it's good enough. So again, this might make you think how you train, and the importance of start line and hierarchy might be a little different than you think. So again, these are your cleanup putts. You need to train randomly between 2 and 6 feet. Don't sit there at 3 feet all the time because, again, 3-footers are only going to show up at 25 to roughly 35 feet, being 3 feet short or long. So that's a very minute window that you're actually training. When you have a much higher variance of lag putting. So don't get suckered into just doing 3-footers because you're training in one specific distance. You need to be just as comfortable at 2 feet and at 6 feet as you are at 3. I hope this was helpful in kind of understanding the anatomy, where does a 3-putt come from, and starting to think of strategies of how to get better. So if you're going to the golf course this afternoon to actually go train to get rid of 3-putts, I would go to the driving range to start with, work on your tee-ball and work on approach shots. How good am I? What's my dispersion? How many shots can I hit within position? How many shots can I hit EG? How many shots can I hit OP? And then you can actually do some math, some simple math by their percentages and predict what your 3-putts would be. Or better yet, hit 10 balls at, basically hit 10 balls at different zones, figure out your distances, and go to the putting green and actually putt those and see what you score. All different ways of doing it. So again, work on the range, work on what you're trying to do there. Proximities, can I get it closer? And then when we're on the putting green, lag putting, hitting to that 10% zone, inside of 20 feet, getting it 2 feet past, and then of course cleaning up where you can. So I hope this was helpful. I know it was a lot of information and it might not have been exactly what you thought of what 3-putts look like. Keep feeding us information, what you want to hear about. This was actually a request from one of my players' parents on understanding 3-putts better. So that's kind of why this video came about. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being part of Fuel, and we look forward to bringing you more videos like this in the future. This has been a Fuel production.